Hello and welcome everyone to Automation 24/7. So today we are going to start Jmeter series. So the first thing that I'm going to discuss regarding Jmeter is the Jmeter Plugins Manager. Now I hope you many of you guys know that Jmeter is an open source performance testing tool, right? So from the server side as well as from the client side we can test the performance of the server as well as the client using this Jmeter, right? Now there are certain elements in Jmeter and those are called plugins, right? So I will be emphasizing on Jmeter plugins manager today. So I will be also showing you how you will be installing Jmeter, and after that how will you install the plugins manager into it. Okay, and some very basic things that you should know regarding Jmeter plugins manager that will be helping you to understand, and that will help you to know some knowledge about it, which will help you to clear the interviews also, right? So let's start. So we are going to cover basically what is Jmeter plugins manager. Okay, then what is Jmeter plugins manager and Jmeter plugins? Like, people really do get confused regarding that, and then we are going to cover up like why is Jmeter plugins manager necessary, right? Then what are the best practices of Jmeter plugins manager? I mean, when you should use it, right? So that also we are going to discuss. And at last but not the least, I am going to show you how will you download that, right? So I am basically going to show from my Windows PC. Okay, so how you are going to install in Windows, that I am going to show you. So let's start. So first we are going to cover up like what is Jmeter plugins manager and what are Jmeter plugins. So you can see there are two sections. Now let me cover the right hand side first, right? The left hand side is written regarding Jmeter plugins manager, and the right hand side covers about the Jmeter plugins. Now Jmeter plugins manager is a type of Jmeter plugins. Okay, so Jmeter plugins so Jmeter plugins manager is basically a Jmeter plugin. Okay, so what's Jmeter plugin? So before understanding Jmeter plugins manager, we need to know what are Jmeter plugins. So Jmeter plugins are basically software components that are used to customize programs. So these are elements or software components present inside the Jmeter, okay, which are used to customize programs, like different sort of ways you can design your test to perform the performance testing tool. So you customize programs means you design your test plan, like you customize your test design for doing the performance testing by extending abilities and inserting functions into the code Jmeter tool. So suppose you need to check for a particular page how it is responding, so you will be preparing the test plan in some way, and suppose you need to check some different network response or some other responses for a different particular page, so for that the test plan will be something else. So the way you arrange those elements, the way you arrange those plugins is what basically it's saying here. So test plan, basically like in Jmeter you arrange the test plan, is like basically you create different sort of functions using these plugins. Okay, so that is why it's saying like these Jmeter plugins are software components used to customize programs. Like, see, that is why I have marked this as bold. These are software components used to customize programs by extending abilities and inserting functions into the code Jmeter tool. So you create some functions also using these plugins, and you customize the programs, like you customize the test plan and create the test design like that way. So there are hundreds of plugins available through Jmeter, like from graph extensions to JSON plugins, dummy samplers. So some of the plugins are listed also. So like three basic graphs, JSON plugins, inter-thread communication, flexible file writer, customer Jmeter functions, throughput shaping timer, dummy sampler. There are some custom thread groups, performance servers, performance monitoring, plugins manager. Okay, so we're going to talk about this plugins manager today. So these different plugins are used for different kinds of usage. Okay, so so these all are used, like suppose as I said, as I gave you the example. Okay, you will be designing your performance test plan in such a way so that uh, the use become like whatever you want to achieve, it gets used, and accordingly you choose your plugin, right? So for like server monitoring, you may not need you may not need JSON plugins. Okay, so for that you will be using only this performance servers performance monitoring. Okay, for client side performance monitoring. Okay, so that point of time maybe you don't need flexible file writer. At that point of time you need plugins manager. So what you will do with plugins manager, you will install some Selenium WebDriver plugins. Okay, to customize your or like to check the client side performance. Okay, so different plugins are used for different use cases. Okay, and we will be designing those uh, elements using this Jmeter plugins according to the way we need, according to the way we use, right? So this is basically Jmeter plugin. So plugins manager is a type of Jmeter plugin. Now let us check what is Jmeter plugins manager. So the Jmeter plugins manager, it installs, upgrades and uninstalls plugins for users, making the plugin installation process more smoother. So there are some additional um, components, or there are some additional plugins which are there in this Jmeter plugins manager. Okay, now this Jmeter plugins manager is also a type of Jmeter plugins. Okay, so this is an extension. Like after you install Jmeter, you need to then install Jmeter plugins manager. So plugins allow everyone to contribute to the Jmeter program and add features. Okay, now we will be talking about why is the Jmeter plugins manager necessary. Now as Jmeter plugins already exist, the next logical question would be yes, why we need it. Basically because the plugins manager is a tool for installing plugins to make the process easier for developers. So there are some additional plugins which makes the process faster. Like as I said, for performance testing for the server side can be done using these plugins. Okay, now to do client side performance testing, we need Selenium WebDriver, some external Selenium WebDriver or like browser drivers are needed. So for that we need to install this plugins manager. So that is one of the reason you can say. Okay, so to perform some additional or to need some additional plugins, we require this Jmeter plugins manager. Okay, now what are the best practices, like when we need that? So already I discussed what is Jmeter plugins manager. So based on that we need to look upon when we need it. So best practices for using Jmeter plugin manager is only install necessary plugins. Like do not install unnecessarily all the plugins, because that will use up your RAM, and that will make, and then might slow up your computer's performance, right? So always use plugins which are required. So once you install the plugins manager, there are certain plugins which will be asking you to install. Okay, so install those plugins in the plugin manager which are required, and unnecessarily do not use that. Keep plugins up to date. Yes, always use the regular, like updated version. Like make sure to regularly update plugins to ensure compatibility with the latest version. So that is obviously needed in order to perform better performance results. And then test plugins before using them in production. Yes, before testing anything in production, that's a normal procedure for any other tools also. So always test them before testing anything in production when it comes to plugins manager also. Now we will be following the process how we will be installing Jmeter plugins manager, right? So let us go to this website. So before that, I have to install Jmeter. So I have to install Jmeter. So I will be going to this website, following step 1, step 2, step 3. But before that, I have to install Jmeter. So always visit, like, before, whenever you need to download Jmeter, go to Google, type this Jmeter download, and always go to this website, https jmeter.apache.org. This is the official Jmeter website. Do not download or install Jmeter from any third parties. Okay, so that might not work, or that might be malicious, right? So always check the updated version. So the current version as of today, like in today's date, the current version is 5.6.2. So what I will be doing, I will be going to the binaries, and I will be installing this. I will be clicking on this Apache Jmeter 5.6.2 5.6.2.zip. As because I am using Windows, so I will be installing the zip folder. There are various ways of installing or downloading Jmeter in Mac as well as in Ubuntu, right? So I will be always selecting the C drive. Just a second. So there was something called, some file was there with the same name. So now let me install this. Okay, just a second. I think there are some files already with the same name. So let me just check on that. Okay, so I'm just saving it here. So I'm just saving it here. Now what I will be doing, I will be copying that. Now I will be unzipping this. So my Jmeter got saved. Right. Now what I need to do, as because I'm in Windows, so you can see there's the file type Windows batch file. So always check the name of the file. It should be Jmeter, and the type should be Windows batch file. And you double click on it, and the Jmeter will be starting. And make sure, guys, Java is installed in your system. If Java is not installed, Jmeter won't work, because that's the important thing required for Jmeter, right? So as you can see, okay, so you can see Jmeter is installed. So I'm having Jmeter, but there is nowhere I can see plugins manager. Okay, there may be different plugins, like if I am right clicking on these things, so there may be different plugins. Okay, So these are the pre-processors, post-processors like JSON extractor. Then there are some assertions also. So these are the by default things, or the by default elements that we will be getting. Now what are the things that we have to follow? So as per this, so what we need to do, step 1, download Jmeter plugin manager, add to Jmeter library. So if I'm clicking on it, so I need to go to this website, https jmeter-plugins.org/wiki/plugins manager. So I will be visiting, I will be going to this plugins manager. So now it says installation and usage. Download the plugins manager jar file and put it into Jmeter's lib/extend directory. So I will be clicking on this jar file, okay, and I will be putting it under this lib/extension directory. So I will be going to lib extension. So now here I will be pasting my jar file. Okay, so click on this, click on the jar label. So yes, I clicked on the jar label and I've put that into this file. Now I have to restart Jmeter. Okay, so what I have to do, I will be closing this, and then again I will be restarting my Jmeter. So again I will be going to bin Jmeter Windows batch file. I will be starting Jmeter. So now I should be able to see my plugins manager. Okay, so this plugins manager are some external plugins that I can use, right? So I need to minimize this. So under options, okay, will be restarted once more. Okay, just a second guys, let me check what happened. So I just pasted this into the lib extension. Okay, so it didn't get downloaded properly. Okay, so that's my bad luck. Yeah, so it didn't get downloaded properly. Okay, so now it got downloaded. So that is why it was not showing. Did you see guys? So that is why it was not showing. So now if I go to bin, and now if I start the Jmeter, so now this plugins manager will be showing. So Jmeter is starting. Yes, see, so once, so how will you understand the plugins manager is there? So this is the plugins manager, right? So if you click on it, it will say has upgrades. So from here you can access this Jmeter plugins manager, or you can go to options, and from here you can find plugins manager, right? So these are the installed plugins. Okay, so these are the installed plugins, like additional plugins like TCP protocol, OS, various core components, LDAP. Okay, so you can use this. And the available plugins, like these are the available plugins. Now if you click on, if you select, and if you select, okay, then this will be installed. Like I want to install WebDriver. Okay, so if I'm searching WebDriver, so I got this Selenium WebDriver support. Okay, so this Selenium WebDriver support, I'm clicking. Okay, so now here I have to click apply changes and restart Jmeter. So if I do that, then what will happen, this plugin will be installing, right? So this plugin will be installing. So let it get installed, right? So in this way actually this works. So let me reopen this once more. So as I said, like in this slide, like these are the plugins which we know, like dummy sampler and all these things. Now in plugins manager we will be getting like all those additional plugins as I showed you. Okay, so those additional plugins, right, like AWS support and all these things. Okay, and you can even you can like view in details what are the things. Like if I'm selecting AWS support, so it will be showing all these things like documentation, what's there, why it is used, so all the necessary information you will be getting. So that's it. So here the upgrades will also be showing, and once the plugins gets installed, okay, so once the plugins get installed it will be showing here. And those plugins, once you create the test plan, so those plugins we can see in this section, like under listener or config element or test fragment and all other places. Okay, so this, thanks for watching guys. So hopefully this video has helped you. So please do subscribe automation 24/7, and I will be also continuing with other videos, and will be starting Jmeter series along with Java, Selenium and different other video playlists. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.